Hello, my name is Prathamesh Sherke and here is our new video about upper limb. The basics of upper limb: the arm, forearm, and the hand. So, what is arm? The region from the shoulder joint till your elbow joint is the arm, from elbow joint to the wrist joint is the forearm, and from the wrist joint to your phalanges is the hand. So, we will focus first on the arm. So, what comes under the arm? So, the arm has two parts: the front of arm and the back of arm. Now, the front of arm consists of three muscles, and the three muscles are brachialis, biceps brachii, and coracobrachialis. And the nerve supply of the front of arm is the musculocutaneous nerve. The brachialis, bicep brachii, and coracobrachialis are the muscles of the front compartment or the anterior compartment of the arm, and the supply is musculocutaneous nerve. Back of arm consists of the three heads of tricep: the medial, the lateral, and the long head. Three heads of triceps. And the nerve supply is the radial nerve. So this was all about arm: the front compartment or the anterior compartment, the back compartment, the front compartment, the muscles of the front compartment, and the nerve supply of the front compartment, the back compartment, the muscles of the back compartment, the three heads of tricep, medial, lateral, and the long head, and the nerve supply is the radial nerve. Coming to the forearm. The forearm also consists of two parts: the anterior compartment or the front part, and the posterior compartment or the back part. The muscles. Now, how to remember the muscles of the front compartment? The muscles of the front compartment can be remembered as by keeping your left hand intact and keeping your right hand on your left hand. So, the thumb represents pronator teres. Pronator teres. Your index finger represents flexor carpi radialis. Flexor carpi radialis. Your middle finger represents flexor digitorum superficialis. Your ring finger will represent the palmaris longus. And your little finger will represent flexor carpi ulnaris. And the front compartment is supplied by the median nerve. Now coming to the back compartment. So the back compartment is the extensor compartment. Extensor compartment. I will write the short forms. The muscles are ECRL: extensor carpi radialis longus, extensor carpi radialis brevis, extensor carpi radialis. Such extensor muscular the extensor muscles are present in the back compartment or the posterior compartment. We do not have to learn the sequence. And the nerve supply of the extensor compartment is the radial nerve. And also the front compartment. The front compartment consists of one muscle, or rather say two muscles, which are deep. We'll write it here. Just a second. Note: deep muscle of front of forearm are, I will write the short form, flexor digitorum profundus and pronator quadratus. Flexor digitorum profundus and pronator quadratus. Now going to the hand. The hand has 4 types of muscles, or rather say they 2 types of compartment, the anterior compartment and the posterior compartment. But while discussing hand, we discuss the muscles. The muscles are thenar group of muscle. Like the thenar muscles are basically the muscles which are present on the thumb region. The hypothenar muscle, or the muscles which are present on your little fingers. The interossei, which are present between the fingers a little, which are present between the metacarpals, and the lumbricals. The lumbricals are also present between the metacarpals. Now, first we will discuss about the arm. So what comes under the arm basically? The first important concept, the axilla. So what is axilla? So axilla is basically the armpit. In layman's language it is known as armpit. So now why do axilla is an important topic, or important concept rather? Axilla is important as it contains the brachial plexus, the axillary artery and axillary lymph nodes. Also fat is present, so it is very important. Now, while discussing axilla, we should first describe its boundaries. The boundaries of the axilla. So, the boundaries of the axilla are anterior, posterior, lateral and medial. So what are the boundaries? Anterior, posterior, lateral, medial. So anterior or anterior fold of the axilla is made by the pectoralis major, and also we know behind the pectoralis major the pectoralis minor is there. Okay, the anterior fold of the axilla is pectoralis major. The posterior fold of the axilla is by subscapularis, or the posterior boundary of axilla is subscapularis. Laterally, coming to the lateral side, we have shaft of humerus. Shaft of humerus. And you very well know what are the muscles attached to shaft of humerus. The coracobrachialis. Okay, and medially we have the rib, and attached to the rib is serratus anterior. Now we will draw the axilla. Okay, keeping in mind of these boundaries, we will draw the axilla. So what we have said, first I will give you an orientation. Okay, this is the lateral side, this is the medial side, this is the lateral, medial, this is the anterior side, and this is the posterior side. So suppose this is an human. Now we are cutting the axilla like this. See, we have taken a cut transversely through the axilla like this, and the eye is here. We are seeing it from above, and we have taken a cut through the axilla like this. Okay, this is the orientation. So what we will see anteriorly, of course, this pectoralis major. So first we will draw the lateral boundary, as it will be easier to draw the pectoralis major. So the lateral boundary, what is the lateral boundary? The lateral boundary is the shaft of humerus. So from above the shaft will be like this, somewhat like this. Okay, and on the shaft of humerus we have already written coracobrachialis will be attached. Okay, now coming to the anterior fold or anterior boundary of the axilla. Anterior boundary of axilla consists of the pectoralis major. So anterior is somewhat here. This is the anterior aspect. Okay, so this will be the pectoralis major, and we have said the pectoralis minor will be behind it. Now coming to the medial boundary, what we have seen in the medial boundary? The rib and the serratus anterior. So the rib will be like somewhat this. Just a second, let me adjust this pic. Okay, the rib will be somewhat like this, and we have written which muscle is attached to the rib. Yes, the serratus anterior. So the serratus anterior will be attached like this. Now, what is the posterior boundary or posterior fold of the axilla? It is the subscapularis. Now, this subscapularis is attached to the scapula. So, somewhat here will be the spine of scapula. Just a second. This is somewhat the spine of scapula. Now the subscapularis will be attached to the scapula and to the humerus. Now we will label it. The anterior boundary is pectoralis major. The anterior boundary or anterior fold is pectoralis major. Behind the pectoralis major is pectoralis minor. Laterally will be the serratus anterior. Medially will be the shaft of humerus. And on the shaft of humerus, what was the muscle? The coracobrachialis. And posterior boundary or posterior fold, the subscapularis. Now let me write the contents of the axilla. So the contents of the axilla is basically, there is only one content or a two content axilla. So axillary sheath is the main content and axillary pad of fat is another content. So the axillary sheath, let me draw the axillary sheath. So the axillary sheath is somewhat like this. It consists of axillary artery, the axillary vein, and the most important content of axilla, the axillary lymph nodes. So somewhat the lymph node will be like this around the axillary sheath. So let me label this too. This is the axillary sheath, which consists of axillary artery, axillary vein, and axillary lymph nodes. And the fat, axillary fat, the axillary fat will be like this, distributed in the axilla. Somewhat like this, it will be the axillary pad of fat. It will be distributed in the axilla. Now, this was all about the axilla, in the boundaries, the contents, and the diagram. And the applied anatomy of this is, let me write that too. Applied is pulsation of axillary artery can be felt. And also one another applied is axillary boils. where the lymph nodes get swollen and they create infection, and we see a little infection in the axilla, and this is called as axillary boils. Now going to the brachial plexus. The brachial plexus is also an important and equally important, a very important topic in the arm. So what is the brachial plexus? The brachial plexus is basically a group of nerves or a group of cords or a group of division. What is the confusion? It is a group of nerves which supplies the upper limb. Okay, a group of nerves supplies the upper limb. Now what are the roots of the axilla? So the roots of the axilla is the C5, the C6, C7, C8, T1. So these are the roots of the axilla. So in the roots of the axilla, the C5 gets merged with C6. Similarly, the C8 merges with the T1, and the C7 is a single cord. So till this, let me specify, till this the part is the root. Further they will be trunks. And what is the name of trunk? This is the upper trunk, this is the middle trunk, and this is the lower trunk. Now further this trunk goes forwards and they give anterior division and posterior division. Similarly, anterior division, posterior division, and anterior division, posterior division. Now this anterior division of the upper trunk, this anterior division of the upper trunk, it continues. Okay, and this posterior division of the upper trunk merges with the posterior trunk of middle trunk. This posterior division of the upper trunk gets merged with the posterior division of middle trunk, and it continues. This anterior division of middle trunk, it fuses with the anterior division of upper trunk. This anterior division of lower trunk, it fuses with the middle trunk, and the posterior division of lower trunk, it continues as a separate cord. Now till here, so this was the trunks, these were the trunks, upper, middle and lower trunk, and from here to here it is known as divisions. As upper trunk divides into anterior and posterior divisions, middle also divide into anterior and posterior division, and the lower also divide into anterior and posterior division. This is the division part. Now since here from ahead of the division, these are the cords. Let me name it. This is the posterior cord. This is the lateral cord. This is the posterior cord, and this is the medial cord. Now lateral, posterior, medial. If we see axilla from here, the brachial plexus from here, suppose from here, this is the eye, we are seeing it from here. So basically what we will see, this is the lateral cord. Just a second, I will draw it here. Okay, this is the lateral cord, this is the posterior cord, and this is the medial cord. We will see it like this if we see it from here. Okay, so therefore they are named as lateral, posterior and medial. Okay, and also one point to note, let me just push it here. Also we should draw this, and I will explain it a bit later. What is this? Let me name it here. Let me label it here. But I will not write the name. First I will explain what was that. Then I will write the name. Now we will discuss the branches of the brachial plexus. Now the branches from the roots. At first the roots. So two branches come from the roots. First branch, we will draw it. It comes from C5, C6 and C7. And it continues downwards. I will use a different color, or else it will be a messed up photo. So also from C7, and it continues downwards. This is the long thoracic nerve. Long thoracic nerve. I will write it here. Long thoracic nerve. And the second branch, which come from the C5 root. The C5 root. The second branch comes from the C5 root. It is the dorsal scapular nerve. Let me write it here too. It is the dorsal scapular nerve. Now, in the trunks, we get from the upper trunk, we get two branches. One like this and one like this. So basically, let me just write it here. From the trunks, we get two branches. The branches from the upper trunk are, this is the suprascapular nerve. Suprascapular nerve, and this is the nerve to subclavius. So this is the suprascapular nerve and the nerve to subclavius. A good applied point, I will just highlight it and I will explain it further. A good applied point, purple is for applied. Okay. Now the branches from the divisions. So there is no branches in the division. No branches in the division. Okay. From the chords. Now the branches from the chords is a bit important. It is easy. So lateral chord. So to remember the branches from the lateral chord, the mnemonic is LML. So LML, what is LML? Lateral pectoral nerve. What is M? Musculocutaneous nerve. And what is L? It is lateral root of median nerve. Now from the posterior chord. So from the posterior chord, the mnemonic says ulnar. So what is ulnar? It is from U, upper subscapular scapular nerve, from L, lower subscapular nerve, from N, N is nerve to latissimus dorsi, and from A is axillary nerve, and from R is radial nerve. From the medial cords. Now the medial cord, the mnemonic says M4U. So there are 4 M's and 1 U. So we will see what is M4U. M4U, first M is medial root of median nerve. The second M says the medial pectoral nerve. See, there is one catch, I have made it. So the medial root of median nerve and the medial pectoral nerve. Here the lateral root of pectoral nerve and lateral root of median nerve. So we do not have to remember the 2 branches. We have to just replace one word, that is medial. The other branch, I will write it here. The other branch is, just a second, the third M. It is the medial cutaneous nerve of arm. The fourth M, and the last M, the medial cutaneous nerve of forearm. So here we have replaced only one word, arm, with forearm. And what is U? U is ulnar nerve. So these are the branches. So one last concept in the axilla, in the brachial plexus, I have stuck in the axilla, sorry for that. In the brachial plexus, so the lateral cord and the medial cord, we have shown a joint between the medial cord and the lateral cord. So I think you have understood it. The lateral root of median nerve and the medial root of median nerve. So this blank was the median nerve. Okay, so this blank was the median nerve. Now one point, the applied part. So the applied was this one, I have marked it in purple. So what was that purple? So it was basically Erb's palsy. So I will first show you the figure and then I will write everything. So basically the Erb's palsy says that when, let me first, actually it should be like this. This is whole Erb's palsy. So first I will write one point here and then I will explain it. Erb's point. So the purple highlighted part is the Erb's point. So what is this Erb's point? It is the junction where 6 nerves meet. So what are the 6 nerves? This is the suprascapular nerve. This is the nerve to subclavius. This is the C5 root. This is the C6 root. This is the anterior division of upper cord, upper trunk. This is the posterior division of upper trunk. So these are the 6 nerves which meet at this point. So injury to this point. So I will write first injury. So this is the symbol for injury. So injury to this nerve root, what it will cause? So it will lead to a disorder known as policeman tip hand. So what is policeman tip hand? So basically at the first we will see the nerves. So the nerve roots which are involved are C5, C6. Okay. The nerve root involved are C5 and C6. So the muscle paralyzed will be biceps brachii, the brachialis and brachioradialis. So since the muscles are affected, they cause flexion. So flexion will be affected and extension will be done. Flexion will be affected and extension will be done. Now also the deltoid is affected. So since, just a second, C5 C6 also axillary nerve is involved, and axillary nerve supplies deltoid. So this, if deltoid is affected, what is the function of the deltoid? The function of the deltoid is abduction of the arm or abduction of the shoulder joint. So it is affected, so adduction will be occur. And also the biceps brachii, brachialis, brachioradialis is responsible for supination. So since supination is affected, there will be pronation. So if we join all these terms, adducted shoulder, extended shoulder and pronated shoulder, therefore, and sensations are lost where the deltoid is affected. So the position will be somewhat like this. So for example, this is a person, this is the hand of the person, so somewhat like this. Somewhat like this. This is the anterior, this is the posterior, superior, inferior, and this is the hand, which is adducted, which is pronated, which is extended, and therefore this position is basically the when the policeman makes for a tip or the waiters ask for a tip, this is the position basically. So it is also known as the policeman tips hand, and it is the Erb's palsy. This was one of the applied of Erb's palsy, and the Erb's point was there. This one is the Erb point, the whole purplish area. Okay, now we will go to the axillary artery. One also applied, we will discuss one applied. Okay, we will discuss one applied, the Klumpke's palsy. So what is this Klumpke's palsy? Klumpke's palsy is basically injury to the lower trunk. So if lower trunk is injured, what will happen? If lower trunk is injured, the hand is affected. So what basically becomes to the hand? So if lower trunk is affected, at the first abduction of arm, then no abduction of arm, at the first T1 to C8 is affected, means C8 and T1 is affected as lower trunk. Now the muscles of the hand will be affected, and the position of hands, basically ulnar flexors, the flexors in the ulnar region will be affected, and the intrinsic muscle in the hand will be affected. Intrinsic muscle of hand are affected. So if the hand is affected, the position is claw hand, as the unopposed action of the flexors and extensor is affected, the claw hand will there, and claw hand is basically the hyperextension at metacarpophalangeal joint. This is because affection of lower trunk. This lower trunk will affect the ulnar flexors and intrinsic muscle of hand, and claw hand position will be there. So this was all about the brachial plexus. Coming to a new topic, the axillary artery. So the axillary artery is a pretty much easy topic. So first I will write the origin of the axillary artery. Origin. So basically the origin is from the axillary artery is the continuation of subclavian artery. Okay, from subclavian artery, and termination. The termination is basically the axillary artery terminates as brachial artery, and further the brachial artery terminates in the cubital fossa as radial and ulnar artery. Okay, so first I will draw the diagram. So imagine this is a muscle. One muscle is important when we draw the axillary artery diagram. Suppose this is one muscle. Which is this muscle? Yes, the pectoralis minor. So why pectoralis minor is important? Because for our convenience we divide the axillary artery in 3 parts. So what are the 3 parts? Why are the 3 parts? So basically for our ease to discuss the branches of the axillary artery, we divide it into 3 parts. And to divide, the criteria is the pectoralis minor muscle. So the pectoralis minor muscle divides the axillary artery into 3 parts. So this is the first part, which is above the muscle and more proximal to the body. This is the second part, which is inside or which is deep to the muscle. This is the second part and distal to the body a bit. And this is the third part. So what is the significance of the third part? The third part is basically more distally to the body, and it is not behind the pectoralis minor, it is above the pectoralis minor. Now we will discuss the branches of the axillary artery. It is very easy. First part 1 branch, second part 2 branch, third part 3 branches. Okay. Now coming to the first part. The first part has only 1 branch. So basically it is somewhat like this, and we will name it as superior thoracic artery. It is the branch of the first part. The second part, the 2 branches. It is very easy. 1 branch, it is the lateral thoracic artery. And what is the other branch? The other branch is basically, let me draw it first. The other branch is basically the thyrocervical trunk. Now the thyrocervical trunk has 4 other branches. Now it's very easy to remember these branches by A, P, C and D. I will write it here. What is A, what is P, what is C and what is D. So A is basically acromion branch. What is P? P is pectoral branch. What is C? C, the clavicular branch. And what is D? D is deltoid branch. Okay, it is very easy. Now how I remembered it, APCD. So A, what is from A in the arm? So it is acromion. What is B in the what is P in the arm? It is pectoral. What is C? It is the clavicular. And what is D? The deltoid. Like the relative terms in the arm. So I remembered it like that. Now coming to the third part. The third part consists of three branches. Three branches are, the first branch is ACHA. What is ACHA? It is anterior circumflex humeral artery. Acha is anterior circumflex humeral artery. And what is Pacha? Sorry for my language, but what is PCHA? PCHA. It is posterior circumflex humeral artery. Okay. Now the third branch, it's come from here. It is basically the subscapular artery, and one branch from it goes here. It is the circumflex scapular artery. Just a second, let me do it here. It is the circumflex scapular artery. Okay, first part consists of one branch, second part two branch, third part three branch. Divided, the artery is divided in three parts. The pectoral is minor. First part consists of the superior thoracic artery. Second part, the two branches, lateral thoracic and the thyrocervical trunk, which consists of four branches, A, P, C, D. A is acromion branch, P is pectoral branch, C is clavicular branch, D is deltoid branch. The third part consists of three branches, the anterior circumflex humeral artery, posterior circumflex humeral artery, and the subscapular artery. Subscapular artery further gives one branch, which is the circumflex scapular artery. This was all about the axillary artery. Now coming to the forearm, one important concept in the forearm, a very basic and very easy concept in the forearm, cubital fossa. So what is cubital fossa? It is basically the part which is anterior to the elbow joint. Now talking about the cubital fossa, first I would like to draw the boundaries of the cubital fossa. I will draw a diagram showing the boundaries of the cubital fossa. Suppose this is your junction or the elbow joint region of your hand, of your upper limb. Now the boundaries are basically, I will just draw them. So basically this, first I will give you orientation, just a second. This is the lateral, this is medial, this is superior, this is inferior. So this is the lateral boundary, So this is the lateral boundary, the brachioradialis, and this is the medial boundary, which is pronator teres. This is a very schematic and a very basic diagram, so the pronator teres might not be seen in the cadaver like this. It is a bit different. So the pronator teres, the brachioradialis. Basically the pronator teres comes from the lateral side and goes to the medial side. It's basically a C-shaped muscle. So this is the pronator teres, this is the brachioradialis. Now if I will draw in this picture only, and this is the perfect cubital fossa diagram. Okay, now the superficial relation. So imagine we are seeing from the superficial aspect. So basically I am trying to get the superficial effect just a second. So assume this is a superficial one, and for our convenience we will draw two diagrams where we see the superficial relation and where we see the deep relation. Okay, sorry for the disturbance. Now the superficial relation, we will see the superficial relation first. Assume the boundary like this somewhat of cubital fossa, the brachioradialis and the pronator teres. So basically this was the boundary. So from the lateral aspect we see presence of one vein which is coming in the cubital fossa. This is the cephalic vein. Let me name it. This is the cephalic vein. And from the medial aspect we see another vein. This is the basalic vein. Basalic vein. There is a junction of this two vein, but I will draw it a little further. So we see presence of a tendon here. Which tendon might be in the cubital fossa? Yes, you guessed it right. It is the biceps tendon. And here's the time to draw junction between the two veins. So which is this vein which I drew it a little further, and what is this importance? This is the median cubital vein. And what's the importance of this median cubital vein? Blood collection. Why only this median cubital vein? This is due to this tendon, presence of the biceps tendon. If we pierce a needle in the median cubital vein, okay, and we collect blood, so we will get the blood. Yes, if a healthcare professional basically did a mistake while piercing the median cubital vein and it accidentally gone to the tendon, so the other structure will be saved because of the tendon and other structure will be safe. So this was the importance of medial cubital vein. Now coming to the deep relation. The deep relation are very easy. Basically one mnemonic for it. It is MBBS. Okay. From the medial aspect we see one nerve. This is from medial to lateral. Medial to lateral. So this is the median nerve from M. Now from B it is the brachial artery. So since this is a cubital fossa, in the lower part it will be divided. Okay, so I will just write it here. This is the brachial artery. Since this side is the medial side, we will see presence of ulnar artery and a bit laterally the radial artery. Done with MBB. Now the tendon. This is the biceps tendon. And now what is S? So basically this is the radial nerve, and one superficial branch comes in the cubital fossa. So this is the superficial branch of radial nerve. So this is MBBS, the median nerve, the brachial artery, the biceps tendon and superficial branch of radial nerve. So this was all about the cubital fossa. And the importance of cubital fossa is for when I will write it first, then I will explain it. It is the brachial artery. So it is useful for palpatory method of BP measurement. Okay, so 2 applied blood collection, or rather I should write safe blood collection and used for palpatory method of BP measurement. So that was it for the front of forearm, the forearm and the arm region. The hand we will discuss it in the next video.